You know you can get glacier cherry powder, right?
I just looked up the same thing. Yeah. By the canister.
Damn, where are you finding that?
Walmart.
Amazon.
Oh, hell yeah.
You get both flavors.
No, I'm not talking about glacier cherry. Hold on. That's not what I'm talking about. Glacier cherry is white. I am talking about the clear kind.
No, I'm pretty sure there isn't a clear one. There's just the, like, unsettling milky white.
No, there is a clear one. That's my point. Is like it used to be able to get it and you can't anymore. The unsettling milky white has been around forever. It's fine. I'm not really opposed to it. You just pretend you're on Star Trek DS9 and you're getting handed your ration by a Vorta. But the clear kind is a different level. It is. There's no description. On a hot, sunny day when you've been sweating and it's come out of an icy cooler, it is the best beverage on the planet.
Is it Lightning Blast?
I don't know.
Are you sure they weren't just undermixing like the clear cherry?
No, it was its own packaging. It was its own packaging and it was a distinct flavor. It kind of had more raspberry to it almost. It was, I don't know what.
David Cutcliffe is just like, Perks, you're a walk-on. You don't get the good shit.
Could be the glacier.
Go drink that watered-down Gatorade.
Did they have a mixologist for you?
Oh, was it the lemon ice?
It was not lemon.
Okay.
Nope. It was a cherry-ish flavor. It might not have had like an actual fruit label attached to it.
Glacier Freeze, maybe?
That sounds more familiar.
Yeah, that one's being described in the marketing copy as a light blue transparent flavor, which doesn't shed a lot of light.
It's clear. This is really important. It's not white. It's not blue. It's clear. It's clear.
Ice Punch. Shit. Reddit's got a post about it. Okay.
That's it.
Wow.
Ice Punch. It was I can't describe to you how good this flavor was.
Hang on.
Well, no.
The AI says it's often considered discontinued, which suggests that it might still exist.
Yeah, but it's just hedging.
I don't know.
It is discontinued.
If any listener can find Ice Punch Gatorade for me in powder form or otherwise, I will reward you, not handsomely, but something in the neighborhood.
Adequately.
Like low tax level looks as opposed to Proctor level looks. This is Normal Men, a podcast from four men who are clinging desperately to normalcy in an era when that's asking a bit too much. I'm George in Charlotte.
In DC, I'm Proctor Malone.
In outer Florida, I'm low-tax speedrun enjoyer.
And I'm Ed in Boston. Anyway, now that we've got that mystery out of the way, I have a note here from one Go Like Hell machine. It's really confusing. I've never seen him write something like this. It's very scrawled, and it says, "Need to go somewhere for a while. Don't ask questions. Forward my mail." So, anything happened this week we should know about?
Yeah.
There was some dinner going on in DC. And
that couldn't have been important.
There were people in tuxes all over the bars. I don't know what was going on. They seemed a little out of sorts.
I heard they were stealing wine bottles.
I did see more people than usual walking around with that 250-year anniversary Fox News gift shop crap. So
I thought they just took a detour through the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport.
Oh man, who was it that got popped in there for sticking his hand under the edge of the bathroom stall? There was a Republican.
Oh, the Idaho Congress senator
Larry.
Which first of all, that should not be a crime. I mean, obviously, let's just get that out of the way.
Larry Craig, I think.
Yes, Larry Craig.
Yeah.
When was that? That has to have been 20 years ago now.
It was at least a decade.
2007.
2007. Wow.
And see, the reason I know so much about this is because I used to connect through Mini St. Paul on the way home from North Carolina. So if you were running a mid-Atlantic origin and ending up in, for instance, GEG, which is an airport I'm sure Proctor is very familiar with, which is also the international airport closest to where I grew up, then you were probably flying through Mini St. Paul because Northwest Airlines, which Delta bought in, I want to say 2006 or 2007, or that was their hub. So if you were flying anywhere into the Pacific Northwest from the Mid-Atlantic, it's like that's how it worked. So I would fly RDU to GEG on Delta, sometimes SLC, but usually go through MSP.
GEG is in Spokane, for those of you who have no idea where it is. I don't know why it's called GEG. I probably should know that.
And you probably shouldn't know where Spokane is. I always tell people who are like,
True.
oh, where are you from? Nelson, British Columbia. It's a really tiny town. You've probably never heard of it. It's about 3 hours north of Spokane, Washington. You know where that is? And every single time I say that, I get a knowing, oh yeah, Spokane. And it's like, yeah, sure, buddy.
Good old Spokompton.
Spokompton.
That's true. We used to call it Spokompton growing up.
Oh, I know. I had a colleague at the Census Bureau who used to call it that. He was from there.
It's a lovely city. We like Spokane.
Really good healthcare, actually.
Yeah. Actually used to consistently make the top of like the nicest places in America to live lists, and then it bottomed out during the 90s, and now it's kind of on the way back. So
shouldn't have. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, it's a totally reasonable place to live. Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, so Nerd Prom got an active shooter.
Correction. Evil Nerd Prom.
Okay. Evil Nerd Prom is the White House Correspondents' Dinner for anybody who is 1 or 2 brainworms levels below the average on this podcast.
And if you are, please get on our level. Thank you.
So the White House Correspondents' Dinner is an annual event where the White House correspondents, who are the press corps who cover the White House, throw this big gala, and often the president attends and speaks and has jokes written for him by professionals. And in good times, it's a nice togetherness exercise that still sort of smacks of decadence and backslapping and all those things. And in bad times, it is arguably literally the event that inspired Donald Trump to run for president when Barack Obama roasted him at the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner.
That's true.
This particular year, it was already going to be kind of a sick spectacle, even in the best of cases. There was plenty of intimations by the White House that Donald Trump was going to come out and confront the press at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, thus turning this thing that is already a little bit gross into something that is massively disgusting, an abomination in the eyes of the Lord.
I believe there were specific words used by Caroline Leavitt about what it would be, were there not, Propter?
She had some predictions, right?
I believe she predicted there would be shots fired.
Shots fired. Well, as it turns out, Miss Caroline Leavitt.
My college football position coach, the coach specific to my position, tight ends. He was also special teams coordinator, but whatever. He used to have a saying, right? If you put it on tape, it's there forever. So if you are in practice and we're filming practice and you put it on tape, it's there forever. If you're worse in a game and you put it on tape, it's there forever. Caroline Leavitt put it on tape and it's there forever.
Yeah, but no one cares. So
I care a little bit.
No one who matters cares, Proctor. Okay. We don't matter. Let's be
Practical
honest.
Consequences negligible to zero. Humorously, I mean,
I don't know, man. Like,
no,
people get really into conspiracy theories these days, you know?
That's true.
There's some real Glonzo risk on this one.
It's been a few months, Proctor. Do you want to explain Glonzo?
Yes.
I was literally about to congratulate him for breaking this habit, and you do that, Lotax. What are you doing? Why are you helping him backslide?
I regret nothing.
All right. So we've got several layers that we sort of have to bring you through here because, again, we're not assuming that everybody is as conversant with the details of this story.
The idiot onion.
What happened last night was that Cole Allen, as we eventually found out, who is a 31-year-old farmer, I guess he's still a Caltech grad, and I guess itinerant tutor for about the last 6 years in Southern California, rushed the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He was allegedly carrying weapons. I think the chances of that panning out are pretty good at this point because we've seen the New York Post is calling it a manifesto. I think it's more of a suicide note in which he explains what he's about to try to do. He did not get as far as the floor of the hotel in question. the hotel in question where the White House Correspondents' Dinner was being held, which is sometimes referred to as the Hinckley Hilton, because it's where John Hinckley took shots at another president once upon a time. He did not get as far as the floor where the dinner was happening. He was not particularly close to shooting anyone that he wanted to shoot. It is not clear that he actually fired any shots, although that's sort of still up in the air.
What we have on the security camera footage is, I think it's fair to describe it as completely hilarious. And I'm not going to use the anime reference because nobody's going to get that one. I haven't seen it also, so I shouldn't be using a reference for something I haven't seen. But this dude literally just gets a good old run and start. He had to have been cruising for at least 20 yards before he hit the security perimeter and just sprints through. It's possible he took a couple shots at the Secret Service agents that were at that post as he was moving through them. It's not totally clear from the footage whether that was the case or not, but he basically just tried to Leroy Jenkins the thing and sprint from outside the perimeter through the entire perimeter to wherever he was in range of Trump administration officials, excluding Kash Patel for reasons that haven't been properly explained to me.
And you don't want them explained.
I do. I do want them explained, actually.
Do you want to know the answer to that?
Yeah, I do.
Maybe he's the guy who was banging Cash's girlfriend.
That would actually explain a lot about this story.
See, I would like to know where the director of the FBI was, but I specifically would not like to know where Kash Patel was.
I would just like to say that, yes, he got past the initial security check, but within like 20 feet of that, he was down.
Right.
And this is a bunch of Maryland people after September. And usually when the back gets to the second level like that, he's gone, you know? So that's the best defense a bunch of Terps have played in decades.
Oh.
So the good news is we can all chuckle about this at this point because we're far enough. I mean, again, we still haven't gotten the whole story on what exactly happened. We may never get the whole story on what exactly happened, but it appears as of right now, Sunday night, April 26th, that nobody was hurt in any serious way as a result of this last night. So that means that we are in, I wouldn't say that we are completely in the this is very funny side of things, but we are closer to the this is very funny side of things than this is deeply horrible. From my perspective, others may differ.
We're close enough to the very funny side that people are berating Taylor Lorenz.
As they should.
As an important figure in this whole discourse.
Well, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they should. Right. All I could think of when I saw it, for those who aren't familiar, Taylor Lorenz is... Yeah, first off, don't be. And second off, Taylor Lorenz is allegedly a journalist of some ilk. I think it's a stretch of the definition, but whatever, we'll use it. Who basically came to Blue Sky apparently to complain about the fact that, like this was like a horrifying experience or whatever, and was roundly told, like, why were you at the Nazi party? And like, why should we feel sorry for you for the consequences of being at the Nazi nerd prom? And she then went back to the Nazi website, the one run by Elon Musk, to complain she was being mass canceled. I saw no evidence of mass cancellation or anything other than people just not centering Taylor Lorenz as the protagonist of reality.
But to be clear, that's why she went to Blue Sky.
Yes.
I did learn something about Taylor Lorenz that I didn't know before as a result of this today. She was complaining about how this hit particularly hard because she was someone who had been assaulted at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, to which another person who had been at Unite the Right in Charlottesville pointed out that what Taylor Lorenz was talking about was that somebody had knocked her iPhone out of her hand while she was trying to film the dead body of Heather Heyer at the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville.
Bad
Oh my
person.
God.
Bad person.
Okay, now we're canceling Taylor Lorenz.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even gotten to her thermostat crimes, so...
What was the temperature she said she leaves it on?
90?
Wait, it was 90?
Yeah,
I thought it was like 80. 80 would be bad. 90 is...
No, I think it's like 90.
I'm looking this one up.
It is scary how few keystrokes you just put into your computer.
I've got a Taylor Lawrence macro. She claims that it's not 90 degrees, but I am not seeing specification of what it is. She just says that it is. She has a metabolic condition where her body cannot hold on to heat. Her body temperature is several degrees below normal. Her words, not mine.
Okay, so she's like the one person you can fairly call a lizard person, and it's not.
Yes.
I have a photo of her thermostat from Twitter, and it says 90.
Okay.
All right.
So our derision towards Lawrence in this particular example is reflective of, I think, the lack of sympathy anyone should have with this particular event. And especially given that no one actually ended up getting hurt, or at least not severely, despite the admirable attempt by the, well, admirable in the very, very limited sense, not the general sense, the admirably stupid attempt at breaking the security perimeter from the perpetrator. I do think, though, I mean, it's not all good. It's not all good at all. And I think there's some stuff to unpack there. It's just, you have to laugh sometimes. And that's what we're here to do. And I think this is a very laughable event, if not one without negative implications.
It is, I mean, it's got to be one of the dumbest assassination attempts in history, right?
No, it's not even close, but it's...
No.
Presidential assassination attempts especially.
I'm struggling to think of a worse one. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the Kavanaugh assassination. I'm making air quotes that you can't see, but the Kavanaugh assassination attempt that happened a few years ago, which you guys may have forgotten about. You guys may have forgotten it happened entirely.
I don't know if I ever knew it happened.
Well, it's clearly looming large in the psyche of SCOTUS at this point. But what happened was this guy came into town. He had looked up where Justice Kavanaugh lives. He had obtained a gun. He went to Justice Kavanaugh's house. He decided he no longer wanted to kill Justice Kavanaugh, and he turned himself into the cops. Assassination attempt.
It was an attempt at something.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Did they like have something to charge him for?
I think so. I'm not totally sure how that one. That was like 2023 maybe.
Yeah, like that's like contemplated attempted murder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like half-ass attempted murder. Like, you didn't really put your back into that one, buddy.
Yeah, but he didn't even attempt it.
He attempted to attempt it.
He turned himself in.
He had taken concrete steps towards event. I should probably look up what actually happened to him. I think he's in jail.
Yeah, I would guess so.
They gave him 8 years? Okay, sure.
I don't think there was necessarily a change of heart in the same way on the part of Cole Allen, who was the guy who rushed the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Well, not if the speed at which he hit the hole was any indication.
No, I mean, he was decisive. You got to give him that on that.
He was moving.
But he was essentially drawing dead as, you know, in terms of accomplishing the goal there. He was not going to assassinate any of the dignitaries that he intended to assassinate by charging the magnets.
Hold on one second. We do need to amend the record. The assassination attempt on Justice Kavanaugh, the perpetrator identifies as a woman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which seems to have been post-coverage. So
okay.
We regret the error.
Sorry. Anyway.
I do think it, you know, we've been talking about this since forever, but the stochastic violence thing, the fact it's basically, you know, our fellow travelers, like if you look, this guy's blue sky history has been pulled at this point, and
here we get back to Go Like Hell Machine's note.
With the noted exception of one Mr. Go Like Hell Machine, none of the four of us were people he interacted with frequently on Blue Sky, but a bunch of the people that we interact with regularly on Blue Sky were people he did. Mm-hmm. We're not going to name names here. You can go look it up yourself if you really care, but it's not a comment on any of them, including Mr. Go Like Hell Machine. But I mean, this is a guy who's like plausibly a listener of this podcast who just decided to take the train from LA to Chicago and then Chicago to DC and bum rush Secret Service and got shot in the process.
Which is wild. Like, how do you took a train, you took Amtrak from Southern California to Washington, D.C. Like, when did you start planning this? The Coolidge administration?
It's a big, beautiful country. You got to see all of it.
Premeditation, proving premeditation is not going to be an issue for this one.
What is that, like a 3-month train ride?
I think from LA to Chicago takes about 3 days, if I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds right. Yeah, it's a haul.
Yeah. It's not as bad as the bus ride, but it's long.
I think that the normal men's stance is that train from LA to Chicago, you do you. Train from Chicago to DC. At some point, maybe you should consider flying. Bum rushing the Secret Service, you should not do. That was really where things went off the rails on this travel itinerary.
I agree.
So
it's always the last mile problem, baby. Or last 50 yards in this case.
At admirable downhill speed, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
I'm telling you, he hit that hole like right into the B gap. Like,
yeah, not great lateral hip movement though.
No.
Like, you know, 5th rounder at best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I do think it is really bad though that people like the listeners of this podcast, I'm not going to impugn directly the listeners of this podcast, but people pretty close to them are just deciding to pick up guns and go after political figures, because what that represents is just an ever wider circle of people that logic works for. And American history has been rife with people like that for literally all of American history. This is, stochastic violence is not new, but the bigger that circle gets, the worse the world is. And I don't necessarily think that this particular event is something that is actively widening that circle, but it's certainly an indication of how wide that circle has gotten. And that is real bad, leaving aside the many humorous aspects of the event itself, which I enjoy laughing about. But you do have to come back to the fact that this means that there are a very large number of people in this country. Because, I mean, this guy fits the description of a lot of people.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
like psychologically and...
Yes and no. I mean...
He's basically Evelyn Normie Lib.
I was just about to say, like...
Evelyn Normie Lib does not have the foot speed that this guy has. But other than
That's true. Her grandson might, though.
On the one hand, there are probably 50 people who roughly fit this guy's mold, who we could name, that we know on Blue Sky, that we talk to regularly, but on the other hand, there are some things about his biography that are kind of unique, that stand out. Like in the aggregate, yeah, there are probably more guys like this guy, and certainly there are more people that I could see thinking about things the way that he was thinking about things in the document he wrote, which we'll get to in a minute. But number one, guy's a Caltech undergrad. What that says is that he is extremely bright. One, because there are not a lot of dummies who go to Caltech. And number two, there are not a lot of people who go to Caltech, period. Number two, he's a Caltech undergrad who it seemed like he had been somewhat frustrated in his career ambitions, which no shade on that. Lots of people are. But it suggested to me that there was maybe some history of mental health issues that maybe had been resolved better at times than others. This was something where, like, you look at his career arc. He came out of Caltech. He was working for a big defense contractor for a year, I think it was, and then he was an indie game dev shortly after that, and then he went back to go get a master's at, I want to say, Santo Dominguez, which is a real step down from Caltech in terms of university prestige, despite the many virtues of the CS system that we've sung on a number of occasions. And
where is Santo Dominguez?
Let me make sure I got that one right, because I don't want to insult any of the many California universities by accident.
Now I have to find some elevator music to put in here.
Jeopardy.
We've used that one already. I'll have to get something really bland and inoffensive.
He was also from Torrance, California, which all the Californians seem to be saying means something.
I'll take their word on it.
How long do we let Proctor keep talking before we tell him he's muted?
Cal State University at Dominguez Hills is the place in question, which again, Cal State universities are great, but they're not Caltech. To put that in, I don't even know if I can put that in East Coast terms. Maybe that's...
It's better not to try. You'll offend someone. Probably me.
I think that's fine.
No. See, probably me.
UWF, ECU.
These letters aren't real universities, low tax.
ECU is probably a pretty good, that feels spiritually correct. I mean, halfway between Compton and Carson, that's...
Yeah.
ECU.
Maybe. I would say that ECU is probably a step up the ladder. Like we're down in maybe like...
Yeah, but you're still in the Cal State system. I mean,
True.
ECU is...
True. Anyway, so he went back, got a master's in computer science, and has spent the last 6 years working as, I think, a standardized test tutor or teacher. I wasn't familiar with the outfit he was working for, but apparently they're big. This is a guy who I suspect is extremely ferociously bright. Certainly has had some academic success, and that suggests that he really kicked the crap out of some standardized tests at some point. And had some frustration. Also, apparently, I'm going to leave this to the Christianity knowers to dissect, but apparently his background may also be from a branch of the church that I guess is a fairly conservative splinter of the Reformed Christianity movement. Some of the people on Blue Sky who were talking about this seem to think that, okay, this explains a lot. I haven't dug in on that enough to say whether or not that tracks for me, but it's consistent with some of the themes he hit in his manifesto/suicide note, which were explicitly religious. The various parts that go into this, yeah, there's a lot of people who fit that kind of general description, but I would be surprised if we are going to have another guy exactly like this or another 50 guys exactly like this. There's a lot going on in the pot there. And I think that's true of almost anybody who takes the step to try to commit public violence, that these tend to be idiosyncratic, even if they're the result of larger stochastic processes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's millions of people who think along very similar lines to what he thinks, but there's that break to go and actually commit an act of violence that I think would eliminate nearly all of those people from ever doing that.
At least to date it has, right? Like we haven't had this gigantic outpouring of violence, even if there has been a significant uptick that we've talked about on this show. You know, we had the murders of the two Jews in DC last year. We've had a number of other incidents that are pretty clearly being driven from the left side of the spectrum in a way that we haven't had terrorism in the United States driven from the left in a very long time. That almost all terrorism for many, many, many years in the United States has been primarily right wing. So this is new, and it's not great.
Nope. But I, to some extent, like, this feels inevitable, right? The pressure cannot keep being ratcheted up, and people who are prone to cracking are going to crack. I don't know what you do about that when, you know, the political moment is essentially, hey, let's go talk about shooting people. And, like, that's what the people in power have been doing for Trump's entire time in public life, right? Like, this is what they do. And, you know, at some point, it's going to get uglier and uglier, because what is the incentive for somebody who is predisposed to violence to back down? Right? Like, they've already made the call. And, like, that's a really scary place to be in societally.
There's also an aspect of this too. that looks very similar to the entirely legitimate and peaceful counter move from Democrats doing what Republicans have been doing for so long, where if Republicans and Democrats are both gerrymandering aggressively, then the odds that you get to some sort of negotiated settlement go up. If it's just Republicans doing it, there's no chance you get a negotiated settlement because they just keep doing it. Like it's a one-way ratchet. If it's a two-way ratchet, then things start to look a little bit different. I'm not particularly optimistic we'll get a national settlement on politically motivated gerrymandering anytime soon, but I'm more optimistic about that outcome in a world where it goes both ways than I am where it's a one-way street. I am more optimistic about the temperature cooling down if both parties have an element associated with them that the wrong individual from a mental health perspective falling into turns into violence. I'm more optimistic that leads to less violence in the long run than I am if it's just one side. Because again, if it's just right-wing kooks doing it, then any effort to turn down the temperature or ameliorate that threat becomes a partisan attack. If it's both sides doing it, well, maybe you don't get to a better outcome. Maybe you don't turn down the temperature eventually. Maybe it's just continues to spiral. I don't know. But at least it's possible. Whereas it's not if it's one-sided.
The right wing has been saying that like trans people are gun-toting powder kegs for years, right? Like they already think that it's going both ways. Yeah, but saying
that isn't the same thing as them actually having to duck when the bullets are flying.
No, of course.
That's the thing.
But like they have built an epistemic closure where this is already true and they still act like this. Bullets are a little more real than ideas. I'll grant you that.
I'm not sure that right-wing elites are fully captured by that epistemic closure. Some of them are. The president is.
Right.
But
like, I'm sure not all of them are.
You cannot convince me that Ted Cruz earnestly believes that every trans person is a AK-47 toting lunatic who's going to gun down his family.
No, but let me ask you this. Does Ted Cruz fear a bullet more than Donald Trump?
Not yet, but he probably will in short order. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I just think that at the end of the day, if Ted Cruz fears a bullet as much as Donald Trump does, then the solution to this problem looks a lot different than Ted Cruz not fearing a bullet at all.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I got to jump in a little bit on this one because the other major incident of left terrorist violence in this country in the past several decades was the baseball shooting at Congressman. Yeah. And so like, if there's
the one in Alexandria,
which came real close to killing kind of a lot of Republican congressmen. Insofar as there is a group of elites in this country who can credibly claim to have been close to left terrorist violence, it actually is the Republican Congress. Like those guys were very substantially standing on a baseball field where someone tried to shoot them all, and had a security guard not shot him, probably would have successfully shot them all. You know, that was a very near miss. Things could have gone differently that day, and things could have gone differently without things being, in a structural sense, a whole lot different than they actually were. That said, you know, so I'm not sure that advancing at least the occasional threat of left-leaning political violence is necessarily going to have that chilling effect. I sort of agree with Ed that whether or not it's true, it's already priced in on the Republican side. Also, one of the other major news stories, at least here in DC, this last week leading up to this, has been that Todd Blanche, who's the acting attorney general, has been going pretty far out on a limb to defend the pardons and commutations of the January 6th people. So, like, he's doing that in the same conversation at sometimes. Like he was on the Sunday shows today talking about that at the same time as he's talking about the WHCD guy. There should be a little bit of cognitive dissonance there, right? Like.
To be clear, I don't think we're there yet. I'm not saying that this event is sufficient to get us there. What I'm saying is, as the circle gets ever wider, the odds of something being done as a general shift in how this all works is higher. Right now, I would rate those odds as very low. But there is no indication that the circle is not continuing to get wider.
Yeah.
None. If
I agree with that
anything, the exact opposite. And I don't know how wide it has to get. All I know is the wider it gets, the more likely the outcome that ultimately turns down the temperature.
Well, and I mean, frankly, it was a miracle in some ways that we got through, particularly Minneapolis, without anybody taking a shot at ICE, who were clearly shooting at people.
Charlotte too.
Yeah,
Charlotte, man. Like,
yeah. Although we did get right-wing violence in Minneapolis. I mean, they did shoot the Minnesota Speaker of the House.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have had incidences of right-wing violence towards Democratic politicians. We had the guys who tried to, what was it, kidnap Gretchen Whitmer.
Yep.
In Michigan.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not like those incidences are not to be found, you know?
No, definitely not.
To be crystal clear, I've been talking about the very, very few isolated incidences of left-wing and relatively left-wing violence in this country over something like the past 50 years. Like, you basically have to go back to the Weather Underground and the Black Panthers to find a coordinated leftist gun violence. Anyway, you get a little bit of it with black bloc stuff if you go back to the World Trade protests. But whereas like right-wing political violence, you can find in any year, you can find 30 examples of it, and it feels like it barely even registers most of the time.
Right.
Despite the fact that it's quite frequently lethal. Like people are literally getting murdered over this stuff. You've got people Portland had a couple cases a few years back. There are always these clashes between protesters, and somehow it's always the right-wing guys killing left-wing guys. So, I do not in any way mean to understate the problem of right-wing political violence in this frame. It is, to my mind, an emergent thing that we now have more left-wing political violence than we used to. And what do we do with that? What does that mean? How do we tamp that down on our side? And how do we predict other people's actions based on this rising trend? That's all.
Although what makes this guy weird, as I think we've all probably noted, is that the people he was following on Blue Sky, a lot of these people who we're all mutuals with, like, these are people who get yelled at because they're very much opposed to political violence.
Yeah.
Hell Machine is very much opposed to political violence. Mika is very much opposed. And so I think the idea that this guy could have been in tune with these folks and then done this is just very strange.
Yeah, no, he was very much in the do not firebomb a Walmart cluster, as opposed to the you should firebomb a Walmart cluster.
Which, to be clear, we are, when it comes to firebombing the Walmart, we are all very much opposed to firebombing the Walmart on this podcast.
Yes.
Ed is doing some sums, but
I have to think about it, but I'll get back to you.
Please don't firebomb the Walmart. They're my only competition versus Publix, keeping prices down here.
Please don't firebomb the Walmart. Costco was out of 0% Greek yogurt today, so I had to go to Walmart and get some of that and some Sasongoya and some non-alcoholic Budweiser.
That's a very detailed list.
It was 3 things. I mean, and 2 dog toys.
Is the non-alcoholic Bud any good?
It's great. It's the best non-alcoholic beer by far, in my opinion. Yeah, because you can't tell it's non-alcoholic because it's like mimicking a beer that doesn't taste like that much to begin with. So, and it also does all the really good, like, refreshing, like, satiation stuff for me in a way that other non-alcoholic beers do not. I don't know if it's the carbonation level that they've tweaked higher or what. It's not very bitter. I could use a little more bitterness in it. But yeah, actually, it's the best one that I can get easily in the US. The best non-alcoholic beer I've had is the 0.0 Estrella Galicia. There's a Spanish lager called Estrella Galicia. That stuff, and their 0% is phenomenal. It is so good. Everything else is beneath that. And then Bud, and then everything else beneath that.
Cool.
Yeah, so if
I would have figured the macro brew Pilsner lager site brands would be the ones who do best at it.
Yeah. I definitely put it in the ice punch category. So like if you can get a line on some Estrella Galicia 0.0 in the US. I drank it in Puerto Rico this past week. It was the first time I'd seen it, which is the US, still technically mainland US. Estrella Galicia 0.0. If you can find that, you let me know. Yeah, there'll be some reward in it for you of some kind.
So I want to talk about this guy's manifesto a little bit, about Cole Allen's manifesto. Should we do that? Is that a bad idea?
No, we can do it.
If you guys,
I'm just really thrown.
Plain sound.
I'm just really thrown that like he only has 2 names. Like, are we allowed to have attempted assassinations from people who are not referred to by first, middle, last?
I mean,
I've been thinking about that for like the last 2 minutes. I was ignoring you the entire time because I don't drink beer, and like that bothers me. I guess there's John Hinckley, but like this doesn't feel American.
It does seem like Cole Allen's a little too simple, right? Like you gotta have some 3-syllable middle name.
Is this the first 2 first names presidential assassination attempt?
My God, are we there? Someday there's going to be a presidential assassin named Jaden. I'm not ready for that.
Man. Hopefully we'll be gone by then and it won't be ours to think about.
Yeah, he'll be in his 70s.
Can you imagine what a Zoomer in their 70s is going to be like?
Oh, God.
I try not to be honest. We're going to be bad enough.
Yeah. I don't think millennials will be that bad in their 70s. We'll be like, modal 70s person. It won't be that bad.
I hope so.
I really, we're like Greatest Generation light.
Are we now?
Pretty good generation.
The war against the burrito taxi.
We did not suffer the same level of economic carnage from the Great Depression or human carnage from World War II. But I do think that the Iraq War and the Great Recession, the global financial crisis, shaped millennials in a way that ultimately will make us much more normal than our kids or the kids of the baby boomers, for instance, or the baby boomers were, really, right? Like if you have, and again, I'm not saying that the millennial Greatest Generation comparison works in the sense of like it was the same thing. It wasn't. I'm not saying that. But if your formative years, which, I was in college 2008 to 2012, right? Like if your formative years are the world is ending, you're going to be a lot less risk-seeking. You're going to be a lot more, not socially conservative necessarily, but small c conservative in how you sort of view a lot of things. Yeah. And I think and like the millennial Gen Z thing, I think it really does work that way, right?
Yeah.
Just like it did with boomers and the Greatest Generation.
No, I mean, I agree. And I think that sort of speaks to one of the things I think of as a transitional line between millennials and Zoomers is the rise of the gambler's economy as Zoomers came of age. And that's very much aligned with that there's a different risk tolerance that Zoomers, I think, are like you're saying, they're generally more willing to take significant, I would say sometimes foolish risks in pursuit of great rewards. And that sounds great if you're a sports gambling company or you're a crypto brokerage.
Yeah. Or an equity market brokerage. Right?
Or an equity market brokerage.
Yeah. Like Robinhood, I think, is more dependent on Zoomers than millennials. There are lots of millennials who are super risk-taking, don't get me wrong. But I think if you look at the modal median average, however you want to parse it, the 80th percentile, whatever, the 80th percentile Zoomer has a much higher risk tolerance than the 80th percentile millennial. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. And I mean, there's downsides to this too. Like my grandparents on my mom's side, like they scrimped and saved their whole life. They my grandmother especially was big time a child with a depression. My grandfather woke up, he couldn't shower in certain showers throughout his adult life because it reminded him of being in the shower when his ship, he was in the Merchant Marine, when his ship was hit by a kamikaze pilot, and he had PTSD his whole life because of that. It created a degree of conservatism in them, and again, not political conservatism, but just caution that I think hurt them in the long run, right? Right. They oversaved and underspent in their retirement, and they could have had a much more comfortable life. And there were downstream effects of that weren't entirely bad, but yeah, and I think it'll probably be true for millennials too, where there'll certainly be people who wish they had put down less and got into the housing market earlier, or bought a few calls in Robinhood or whatever the thing is, right? Or started that company or whatever that a Zoomer will just do. But, I do think, though, that'll be the defining difference between those two cohorts.
I hear what you're saying, but GameStop was so many millennial idiots.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it was a lot of idiots. It was people in their 50s too, and even older than that. I mean, it was,
My grandparents were a lot like George's in that, on my dad's side, in that they way oversaved. This was not intentional on my grandmother's part. She just didn't realize they had as much money as they did. And then she found out that they had money and looked at my grandfather and went, "You motherfucker."
All right, so back to this guy's manifesto, which
longest aside ever.
It's short, but I'm not going to read it on air. But I think it's worth the time to seek out, actually, because it's a good read. It's well written. I think it is more of a suicide note than a manifesto, and I'm going to make the argument why here. It starts with a long series of apologies to people in his life, to people he's hurt, to the world, to people who have been damaged by the United States, and segues into an explanation of why he feels he has to do what he's about to do. Again, we, from the perspective of the day after, know that this was not successful and really was never going to be successful, but let's assume that Mr. Allen went into this with the thought that he had a chance of accomplishing his goals. Certainly the note, he seems to think he had a chance of accomplishing his goals. He thinks that what Trump is doing in his name, he can no longer tolerate. This is an explicitly political argument, and it's an explicitly moral argument that I think is fairly resonant. That there is this idea that in a democracy, even if you voted the other way, even if you fought against it, these are things that are still being done in some sense in your name. I mean, hell, even in other forms of government, you're a member of the team is doing something. Therefore, that reflects on you, and therefore you have some responsibility to try to do what you can to improve it, to ameliorate the harms, to effectuate the good, and to stop the evil. That's the part that resonated for me. I thought that the apologies were very much of a piece with this being kind of an attempted suicide by cop, but in a way that was cloaked in at least ideas that suggested a nobility, that this was kind of an acceptable suicide, a noble death. He also talks about his rules of engagement, who he's trying to kill, who he's not trying to kill, and he's very specific about who he's trying to kill, who he's not trying to kill, and how he's going to effectuate that. The one other passage that I will read here was at the end of this. There's a paragraph that really stuck out to me. This is something he wrote right before he made his run. "Oh, and if anyone is curious how doing something like this feels, it's awful. I want to throw up. I want to cry for all the things I wanted to do and never will. For all the people whose trust this betrays, I experience rage thinking about everything this administration has done. Can't really recommend it. Stay in school, kids. I thought that was affecting, that this is a guy who, that graph reinforces my sense that this is a guy who was trying to get killed by the cops. But also, he's not having a good time doing it. This is not, chrome spray paint on your face and riding eternal. This is
right.
This is not something that feels like a blaze of glory. This is something that is making him miserable, even as he feels he's fully committed to it. That's the part that stuck with me, and I would say that I hope that's the part that sticks with you if you're similarly situated.
It's depressing.
Yeah.
Especially because this is such a doomed enterprise.
Yeah, you wrote this whole manifesto and then you did that.
Yeah.
They've got maps for like fire evac.
Let's not in the group chat this afternoon. Proctor pointed to a post I had made on Blue Sky and said, "Hey, let's not come up with better ideas for how to do this next time in public." And I said, "Yeah, that's true, but to be fair, I was just saying it was bad. I wasn't giving ideas for anything more specific." Ed is now...
but I'm doing the edit here, so I'm just going to put the peanuts wah wah over that, and no one's going to know what I said.
That's okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, the manifesto is kind of like, the opening of the Leroy Jenkins video when the guys are like nerding out about the statistics. Like, oh, we have a 33.3 repeating, of course. Yeah.
Repeating, of course.
Somehow I've never seen that.
Oh, you got to watch. It's the most classic. It's wonderful.
It's worth a watch.
I just realized that because it's just permeated everything. And then I've just don't know how I never saw it. Weird.
Now we have to use it as outro music.
Fair.
It was staged, I think.
Doesn't matter.
So now Low-Tax is a Leroy Jenkins conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Got it.
That is another thing that this event has surfaced, which is that there are a lot more people who believe that the Butler assassination attempt was staged than I thought there were.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them are Republican.
Sorry, to be clear, I am saying oh yeah to Proctor's observation, not oh yeah, it was staged.
But you would say that.
Yeah, look.
Not if I'm one of the people that Proctor's talking about. They are letting that flag fly, baby.
Look, Donald Trump lies all the time. You can't trust anything he says. You can't trust anything that people around him say. But a dude died. They were very definitely shooting live bullets in the direction of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is not signing up for that.
No, and you would the idea that the Butler shooting could be a false flag operation is no rifleman on earth would you trust with that shot.
Right.
Not one. I mean, the only reason Donald Trump survived that was because he moved his head to the side at just the right moment.
I will say that the conspiracy theories on this are that he was never actually fired at in terms of in the crosshairs, and that they faked the bullet impact or bullet grazing. And feasibility of that aside, either way, I do agree with Proctor's point that he would not have signed up for this.
Yeah, but we have images of the bullet going by his head.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists are famously not going to just accept that.
Sure.
So,
I know.
I mean, some of them think the Earth is flat still.
Yeah.
More of them than at perhaps any other time in human history.
Well, there's more of us now.
That's true.
But we do know more about the Earth now, so...
Yeah, we also have planes.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that curvature going on. Weird.
Yeah.
I blame YouTube and the schools.
It's because of that thick glass they use on the windows.
Yes.
I'm just saying, I can't see California from here, but I can see the moon, so it must be closer.
I wonder why they didn't land on the moon this time, huh?
Really makes you think.
There's not enough room in, like, you know how they're doing all the shows in that, like, Unreal Engine volume now? Just not enough room.
Yep.
You had to put the whole spaceship in there. Where are you going to put the moon?
Anyway. Yeah.
This is a trash fire, and I do not apologize for it.
So, like...
We're having fun, though. That's what counts.
There are a lot of people, and like you can see this already forming in real time, that there are a lot of people who think that this attack is a false flag or it's something other than what it superficially appears to be. I think they're incorrect, but this is in the bloodstream and it's clearly taking hold. So I think also, like, if you weren't, glued to the White House Correspondents' Dinner because you're an addict to a political microblogging website, then my guess is that the overwhelming majority of Americans, this is something that they woke up to the next day and were kind of like, shucks.
Again?
It won't be the day today, but someday it will be. Until then, time for some coffee.
Yeah. Damn shame. I said this on Blue Sky, but I think it's going to be shocking when Trump finally exits, how quickly he is forgotten, how quickly he just goes down the memory hole, and he's no longer a force. That there's not this ghostly legacy that's going to persist around him.
Oh, it's going to be 5 minutes after the next president is sworn in. That'll be the end of it.
It might be before that, honestly. It might be 5 minutes after the first polls close in November of 2028.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
if he makes it that far, like, we're barely going to be talking about him that last summer. Yes, I know. You think Donald Trump is immortal.
Look, he hasn't proved him wrong yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, at some point, I'm hoping that I can make a better counter argument. But
yeah, I fully agree with that. What's the waving the bloody shirt of the post-Trump era going to be called? Because there's a lot of stuff to hang on this political movement.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue for at least a decade after Donald Trump. Whether it'll be politically, salient or not is an open question. Probably for quite a while after, I would imagine. But what are people going to call that as in a derisive sense? For those that aren't familiar, waving the bloody shirt is what the Republicans did during Reconstruction and maybe a little bit after that. It was, basically saying like those other guys are the reasons that all the Union boys got killed on battlefields. So, they're bad. And this was called waving the bloody shirt. Those the politics of Reconstruction.
Yeah.
The Democrats didn't like being associated with the regime that they had been associated with. So what's that going to be?
I'm not wild about this, but I think it's going to be shaped like the Epstein class stuff. Mm-hmm. That it's going to be shaped as a populist campaign against corruption and elites. And maybe with a little bit of anti-Semitic crossover. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, yeah, that's a good bet, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Impugning Donald Trump's hallowed memory is just, shiftless, rootless cosmopolitan, and you know what that means.
Yeah.
Rootless cosmopolitan thing.
But frankly, a lot depends on how it happens. A lot depends on how we get from here to there, so that we can be talking about a post-Trump world. Yeah, I think it matters a lot if he dies in office. I think it matters a lot, who gets sent up there as a successor candidate, and how the various other organs of both the right and the left react to that. We're already seeing some schism lines on the right that are pretty well defined along this populist line. Like, you're seeing, there's been a fair amount of, and I don't know if we've talked about it that much on this podcast, but there's been a fair amount of ink spilled on this cleavage now between, like, the Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson side of things, that are going off in this more populist direction that is already turning against Trump in a lot of ways. And at least in the Republican Party, the populists map to the anti-Semitic side, whereas the creepily philo-Semitic side of the right is more associated with the legacy of kind of like Charlie Kirk's movement.
So philo-Semitic that you turn into a bit of an anti-Semite, like that whole deal.
Yeah, no, I mean, as a Jew, I'm not like super excited about any of this. Like, you're kind of seeing those lines of battle drawn, and I think that those cleavages are going to continue to deepen over the next couple of years. You're probably going to. It's probably too late for that to play out in primaries for this electoral season, but I would expect to see some of it start to pick up as we go through specials over the next 2 years, and for it to kind of reach a fever pitch in 2028. I think it's going to be really nasty for the Republicans. I'm excited about it being really nasty for the Republicans. It would be nice if there was a faction that I was excited about the possibility of them winning, and I think they're both awful. So
the only thing is that the populist anti-Semitic side, I'm not sure they really have a dude to run.
Yeah.
Who can be seriously competitive. Yeah, I know, but nobody's voting for MTG. Like, let's be real. It would be very funny, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe it's Tucker. You know, he's...
Nah, Tucker's smart enough to wait for 32 or 36.
It's not even that. I'm going to put my marker down here. That dude has some of the worst skeletons in his closet that have not been revealed that are on the playing field. Like,
care to speculate?
Not quite at this time, because, you know, libel is a thing.
Yeah.
But no, like, people know. People know. Like, they have to. This guy is a snake.
All right. Ed's marker is that there is bad shit that is not in the public sphere fully about Tucker Carlson. Is that fair?
I'm going with top decile rancid.
Wow.
That is a claim.
I guess
we're not talking about a hand under a bathroom stall in Minneapolis.
No. No.
Which, again, to be clear, is not actually rancid. That's the bit there.
Yeah. Minneapolis, it might be the sexiest of the major hub airports.
The what? No.
It is a pretty nice airport, but I wouldn't go that far. That's kind of imputing some characteristics that frankly make me feel a little uncomfortable.
Well,
I mean, it's Atlanta. Come on. Yeah. Atlanta is much sexier than Minneapolis. Minneapolis seems like a great place. I haven't spent much time there, but it seems like a great place. I'm not impugning Minneapolis. Atlanta is sexier than Minneapolis.
Atlanta is the Houston highway system of airports. You go there and you merge across 30,000 lanes to get anywhere.
Hold on. Sorry.
We're talking about the airports. We're not talking about the cities.
No, I know. I specifically said the airport. Yeah, no, it's the worst place.
I got a little confused there, but I'm still going with Atlanta being sexier than Minneapolis.
I think Ed makes a fair point if the train has broken down, which admittedly does happen with some regularity.
Yeah,
it's happened to me
fair.
twice.
That's fair.
I used to go every year. Broken at least 2 out of like 7 times.
Minneapolis, not a terribly sexy airport in my experience.
It's very utilitarian. It has a Fox News store.
Nobody's speaking up to defend Houston here, or DFW rather. I just want to say.
God, no. Oh God,
no. God,
DFW is the stuff of nightmares.
DFW would be rapidly improved by like an earthquake.
Ooh. DFW. Disgusting. I mean, it's not ORD, which, oh, buddy.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like if you tried to turn a favela into a major hub. We don't love that. SeaTac, I think, has a shot at it, but it's also just so like complicated and convoluted that it's not really sexy. But I guess you could say that it's like, you know, there's some mysterious allure there, like when do you have to take a train, and like how far away is Terminal 3? But you know, it doesn't really do it for me. I think one we haven't talked about that's probably worth discussing is Detroit. Philadelphia is also an American hub. I'm not big on the Philadelphia airport, other than meeting Sarah McBride there, which was a wonderful experience. So that gets some sexy points. I'm trying to think, who else are we missing here?
There is one
SLC,
really...
Denver's got the crazy horse.
It might be Denver. Yeah.
Yeah, but have you ever had to board in Denver?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was my wife's home airport.
I'm so sorry, because for my sins I had to go out there for work 3 times in the last couple of years, and no. I mean, I guess if you're defining it as nice to look at, sure, but then there's the whole experience of interacting with it that I think you kind of have to take into account.
It is in the middle of nowhere.
Like the fact that they put it in fucking Kansas.
One thing I am proud of is that no one mentioned Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix's airport is...
Yeah,
it's mids.
It is.
It's fine. It's mids.
Yeah.
It's just...
I don't think it gets over the Minneapolis line.
What, Phoenix?
Yeah.
No, Minneapolis is more sexy than Phoenix, for sure. Yeah. Detroit is one we haven't talked about. Detroit is a Delta hub. Yep.
We're not talking about the international hubs. I think that's a different weight class.
Send in your messages. We will power rank the sexiness of the various American airport hubs.
So there is also another major hub that we have not mentioned.
Okay.
It's like one of the busiest airports in the world by plane movements.
I know what you're going to say, and then I'm waiting for you to say it before you are excommunicated.
It's about 15 minutes from my house.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that one.
Gonna throw it up for the Queen City. All right.
I mean, we do have a very sexy statue of Queen Charlotte.
Yeah.
I was really worried you were going to say O'Hare.
No, I talked smack about ORD earlier.
Yeah.
You said O'Hare was a favela.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Charlotte is the thing that's not sexy about Charlotte is it's the world's largest airport without a people mover.
Mm-hmm.
So, every gate you have to walk to any other gate. There's some moving walkways and such, and you go through a very nice atrium that has some lovely rocking chairs, and it's not badly laid out, such as is possible in that scenario. But I mean, if you're coming into A and you got a connecting flight over in E, you're in deep trouble. That's a solid mile on foot.
So
yeah,
sweaty, but I'm thinking that's sweaty, not sexy, as opposed to sweaty, sexy.
Usually not. Yeah, usually the not sexy variety. But
there
also
is
Bohangles, so
there is a major.
Yeah.
There is a hub that is very sexy in my state, and that is MIA. And you know why it's sexy? Because it has a fucking smoking lounge after security.
Oh, no.
You can also get a pretty good Cuban sandwich in MIA, which points for that.
I'm sure that's true, but the smoking lounge is in TGI Fridays, so I don't care.
Oh, Lord.
Give me that Jack Daniel's steak and a cigarette. I'm good.
I did have to run
Fridays.
No. Quote, steak, unquote. I did have to run from Terminal 5 to Terminal 1 at ORD once because the people, all of the walkways were out. That was not a good day. An airport that doesn't have one and is that big, how did they just forget? Did they wake up one morning and go, shit?
There's just, because the layout is all spokes into one spot, and so it just wouldn't actually speed things up much to have a people mover. And then to do it, you would just be traveling where the building already is. So
yeah,
where are you going to put it?
Oh, that is a really weird shape. I don't like that. Don't like it.
CLT is it has the highest ratio of experience as a final destination or origin point to connection in the world. I mean, there's no, it is sick to fly in and out of and horrible to connect through. So got that going for me.
How did we start talking about this?
Larry Craig.
Ah, yes.
Larry Craig.
Yeah.
Yes. Larry Craig for the second time, somehow leading Propter to comment on the sexiness of the Minneapolis airport.
For feedback, you can email lowtax.speedrunenjoyer at normalmen.biz.
And again, I will get to those just as quickly as I get to your complaints as Blue Sky CEO.
Just remember, podcast, we offer a liberal refund policy.
Do you guys see that we just broke the 2-hour marathon record? That's the other big news this weekend. Pretty exciting.
Like 2 separate people, right?
2 separate people, one of whom was running his first ever marathon.
Yeah. And a third guy broke the world record in the same race. So you had 3 world record breakers, 2 of them under 2 hours. And the guy that won, he didn't just break it. He broke it by like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He was like 1:59:30.
Crazy.
What? I just, you can't even get a normal treadmill to run 13 miles an hour. And that's what he did for slightly under 2 hours. What? Unreal.
We're under a 5-minute mile and he's doing 26 of them.
Yeah, I like on my treadmill it goes to 12.5, and I can run that pace for, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I do that fairly regularly. Going up to 13 and then sustaining that for anything more than 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe a minute, or I don't know, 2. And this dude's doing that for almost, not quite, but almost 2 hours.
Humans are cool, man.
I don't know. That doesn't sound cool to me. My knee hurts just hearing that.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's about 2 hours of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
We haven't talked about Iran. It's still there.
Yep. This concludes our Iran. This includes our Iran update.
We're at an hour and 17. So I mean,
yeah,
we don't really need another topic.
We don't need it, but I mean, the Pakistan negotiations are entirely off the table. Like they're not doing anything with that anymore.
They can call us on the phone.
Iran is now saying that they won't negotiate over nuclear materials, so that seems bad.
Yep. The blockade, it's not just a blockade of Hormuz, it's a double blockade of Hormuz. That's been true for a while, but we're really not messing around with that at this point. There's a number of tankers that have been seized. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, typically a lot of people were talking about the fact that physical markets are the pain point and futures are kind of just pure speculation. But physical markets are speculating a lot too right now, because if you want to get a barrel of crude, if everyone who needed crude to keep operating bought crude right now in physical markets, like bought dated Brent, bought WTI delivered in Houston, whatever, the physical market would be at 175 probably, certainly north of 150, right? The shortages are that big, but people just aren't buying it. And there's a few different explanations for that, but they all boil down to the idea that this will be over soon and then we'll be able to get our hands on the crude we need. And that's not futures traders punting around dollars and, just pure speculation or whatever. That's people who are actually managing physical plant who are behaving that way. They're saying we're going to run down inventory, or maybe we'll go 100% offline if we have to. which is extremely expensive for a refinery to do. That's like the worst case scenario. Instead of cutting runs to 75% utilization or 50% utilization, we'll cut to zero if we run out of inventory or, can't buy our next cargo. And so like there's a whole expectations game in that physical market, which is really unusual. Usually the physical market is the exact opposite of that. People are just like, this is what I need on this date and moving from there. Whereas futures always have there's always some speculation in there. And so that's really interesting. And if we do hit sort of the point where people start buying crude at the marginal barrel and, buying marginal barrels up to the point where they're actually fulfilling what they need to keep operating, then yeah, I mean, we'll very quickly add $20, $50 to crude from where it is now. But maybe they don't. Maybe they just say, whatever, we'll just shut down. Like product prices aren't high enough, so we'll just shut down. I don't know.
I'm thinking out loud through this. So correct me if I'm saying something stupid, which I probably am. But if oil prices get that high and the strait is still shut, aren't you kind of just kicking the can down the road a little bit on when you have to shut down? Or is there enough steady state oil flow that these guys can stay operating indefinitely? Like is this some plants making the affirmative decision that they're going to be one of the ones who are squeezed out by price?
Yeah, so there's two ways to think about this. So the first way to think about this is, how are individual refiners behaving, right? Like, are they basically saying, well, we need to have 30 days of inventory on hand and we'll burn through until we'll just run at our normal runs or at a modestly reduced run rate until we're out, and we'll just run inventory from 30 days down to 1 or whatever, or down to 0, like whatever. That's one sort of way to do it. Another way to do it is to say, well, we'll just do our best to get our hands on cargoes when we can and, not really worry about it. And what'll happen will happen. And then another way to do it is to say, okay, price for our products is here and our marginal barrel is here. So, we'll just wait until price goes up and then we'll start buying spot barrels, right? Wherever we can get them when price for products go up. I guess the way to think about it that's like the mirror image of that is to say you can ration in two different ways. Mm-hmm. You can ration in volume or you can ration in price. Rationing in price, like if you did it that way and everyone was just saying, okay, we need to keep our normal inventory, so we'll buy what we have to buy, and that takes crude to 175 and that takes product, therefore products are whatever, then as prices go up for products, demand drops, quantity demanded drops, right? Because demand curves slope down. And so at that point, the market is allocating less product to people who can pay less. Instead, the other way you can flip it is saying, well, price isn't really sending a signal right now, and whichever refiner happens to run out of money or run out of input first, their customers, therefore, are being rationed regardless of the price they can pay, right? Because some of these are captive inside specific geographies. So either way, you are seeing rationing. It's just, how is that being expressed? In a properly functioning market, it should entirely be through price mechanism. But right now, it's not. In other words, you're seeing some rationing in quantity as well as in price.
Right. But you've got a discontinuity for, right? Like if you have to shut down fully, that's a discontinuous event.
Well, yeah. I mean, so it kind of gets complicated, but I think on the one hand, because shutting down entirely is a very long-term process to get restarting, I think the best analogy I've heard for this is that it's a giant chemistry set.
Yeah.
And you can reduce flow rates, but stopping them means you have to start the chemical reactions from zero, and that's really, really complicated. So it's a long process. It's a, dicey process. Like, these things aren't designed to be shut down fully that often, and it's complicated to do it. And then also, like, just the way it works, if you've got a big fixed asset, if that revenue rate goes to zero, then the costs get really high really quickly, because you still have to service all the debt, you still have to pay all the taxes on the land, you still have to amortize everything. It's a mess. So that's like the one side of it. The other side of it is that if refined product prices aren't high enough to justify paying for that, if the crack spread, in other words, is negative. Crack spread is the difference between the products and the crude. If the cracks, yes, Ed, it's called a crack spread because you are quite literally cracking molecules. That's why it's called that.
I understand the meaning. Just you said that very calmly.
So if the crack spread isn't high enough, then maybe shutting down doesn't actually cost you that much after all.
Right.
Relative to negative margins on what you're selling.
Right.
There's just a bunch of reasons to believe that right now prices are not reflecting reality because of expectation. Right. There are a lot of people who are Wile E. Coyote over the cliff and the legs are still turning. And it's not just futures markets. It's a ton of market participants in a bunch of different places around the world, all doing it at the same time.
So, I guess kind of what I'm wondering here is if some of these guys, if their model is, okay, if oil goes to 180 and we can buy it and we can buy at 180 in the steady state, we would do that as long as that's not profitable for us to run the refinery, but it's better than shutting down as long as it's going to come back down at some point in the relatively near future.
They don't care what the spot price of oil is. They care what the crack spread is.
Okay. Gotcha.
So if product prices are high enough, let's use some made up numbers here. Let's say you're able to charge $220 for a barrel of diesel and your spot crude is 180, then you'll run as long as you can, as long as that.
Sure.
Fine.
Okay.
I mean, you might have to arrange additional financing because now you have to come up with 3 times the cash on your input before you get your revenue from the output, but it's fine. I mean, it's doable. The real problem is, what if product prices don't get that high?
Right.
What if people using crude or using crude products, using refined products, are rationing early and demand destruction is such that that short circuits? Also, keep in mind that a lot of global oil demand isn't really tied to market prices. So if you're in an emerging economy, you're probably not paying a market price for your gasoline, your diesel, your jet fuel, all that stuff, right? It's heavily subsidized in the emerging world, which is, I think, something that a lot of people don't really realize, that a big chunk of the world economy is heavily subsidizing fossil fuel use as opposed to, taxing it or trying to subsidize alternatives that would get us off fossil fuels. In a lot of the world economy, it's the complete opposite. It's being heavily subsidized because at lower income levels, incremental fossil fuel use is incredibly accretive to economic growth. They're,
right.
Burning an additional diesel engine is probably generating a huge amount of GDP relative to what's costing you. So it does make some sense from a strict economic efficiency perspective, without taking into account all the externalities, of course, of carbon emissions, to subsidize that particular behavior. So if you're a refinery in one of those emerging markets and you can only sell your products for a capped amount, right? You're in trouble because crude prices have already gone up so high that, and maybe that's the logic that's being used, is just that, well, as long as we can't raise prices, then we'll burn through the crude we have on hand and we'll wait for it to get cheaper. And that'll mean no gasoline, and that's not our problem. Or no diesel or no jet fuel or whatever. And whatever.
I mean, again, thinking out loud, but it occurs to me the part of the problem here. So if the crack spread is the determinant, then one of the things that's really threatening to refineries is if downstream customers start to substitute away from whatever your products are, whether it's the plastics industry, whether whoever's ultimately buying plastic packaging starts moving towards paper-based packaging or what have you.
It's entirely fuels.
Okay.
The way to think about the global petroleum industry is that the vast amount of decision-making goes through, we just use so little of a barrel of oil on plastics that it's just not what's setting prices at the margin. It's still really important, and the idea of what happens to the plastics industry or a bunch of other industries that are low in terms of volume but associated with those barrels, here's a good example, jet fuel. So if we go to 100% EVs, for instance, you can't just produce jet fuel exclusively from a barrel of oil. You have a bunch of other stuff that comes out of it, and
that's where the plastics come from.
Well, yeah, but again, plastics are a few percentage
right, I know,
points
but like that's what
consumption.
a lot of people keep thinking about. But like literally, when they do that refining process, it makes ethylene gas, which turns into PE.
Yeah, exactly.
I do 3D printing. I know things.
So like, what do you do? Like, how do you restructure global refining to, and you could do a lot to optimize for kerosene, which is jet fuel, for instance. You're also just going to be using so much less crude overall that you're also going to be using so much less that it becomes a smaller problem. Like the aviation industry just doesn't use that much fuel compared to ground transportation. But in any event, this problem is really widespread because that crack spread sends a bunch of economic signals, and fuel is where it's most important. And if much of the global refining industry, not most, because I would say most of global fuel consumption is ultimately market priced, but if a large percentage of global fuel consumption is effectively, we can't make money on this, then they can't make money on it. That's it. In the US, it doesn't work. None of this applies in the US because the gasoline price you pay at the pump, the crude extraction, the refining, it is all on a day-to-day basis, it's 100% market-based, right? Like we have taxes on gasoline, but they're constant. They're not a subsidy, they're a tax. And there are subsidies for petroleum extraction, but they're not going to dictate how big a refinery runs from one day to the next, right? And the flow of crude into the US and like the barrels that we mix with light sweet and the production of light sweet, all that's going to continue regardless of what happens in the rest of the world petroleum markets. So like for us, for US consumers, and this basically applies in Europe as well, it'll be entirely a price-based adjustment. There won't be actual, but in the emerging world, especially in Asia, it might not be. And it might just be refineries just stop operating. And we're not there yet, but we're pretty close. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Wouldn't want to be flying to Asia anytime soon.
I'm just singing crack spread to the tune of the Beatles' Taxman in my head.
You could do that out loud if you really wanted to.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, well, one person on this podcast is flying to Asia in a week and a half. So that's fun.
Yay.
They haven't canceled my ticket yet.
It's not the getting there that's the issue.
No, I know. I'm well aware. I've considered that.
Wait, Japan or?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be fine.
I know. Worst case, oh wait, no, boats use oil too, don't they?
Indonesia, Australia, India, that axis, that's
worst times.
Not going to be. I mean, Australia is not technically in Asia. I know. I get it. I've had enough blue sky pedantry this weekend.
We would never wish that on Asia.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for this week. I'm tapped.
Yeah.
How about you fellas?
Yeah, let's call it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We've done our contractually obligated Iran segment.
Yep. All right.
That was way longer than it needed to be. You could have gotten away with like one segment. Instead, I had to hear the phrase crack spread no less than 24 times.
Peanut butter and crack sandwich.
You talked about crack spread being high enough, and I think I think that should be wide. I just want to say.
Prices go up, Proctor. Come on.
It is sometimes referred to that way. Yeah. Of course, cracks can also blow out, which I'm not making that up. That's not a bit. That actually is the terminology for when crack spreads rise rapidly. They blow out. Yeah. For normal men in Charlotte, I'm George.
In DC, I'm Proctor.
In outer Florida, I'm low tax speed run enjoyer.
And in Boston, I'm Ed.
Stay normal, y'all.
If you can.
Crack spread.
I'm the crack spread.